Hello Project 52ers. Welcome to week 6 of the savings challenge. For the adults playing along, it's time to save $47. So you should now have saved $297 and on our way to our end goal of $1,378. Now, I know some of you are doing slightly different variations. I think that's cool, whatever's going to work for you. Some of you guys are saving $52 every single week. Some of you are saving double every week. Whatever you're doing, I think just the key to making it work is consistency. So just keep it up. I love all the different combinations that are going. And there's also the kids savings challenge that is on as well. So for kids, it's time to save 60 cents, and they should now have $2.10 and on their way to a year-end goal of $1,378. And if you're just new to Project 52 or you've missed some weeks, don't worry, just catch up. You can always catch up. There's no dramas doing that. So if you haven't started with the kids yet, things are a bit crazy with them going back to school, well, now they're all back at school, maybe you can start this. Now, this week's wealth building tip is all around the benefits of having an emergency fund. So an emergency fund is a bit like having that second cord on a parachute. You hope you never have to use it, but you're really glad it's there. So that's some money, emergency fund's the money that's put away so that if you get made redundant or if the fridge blows up or something unexpected happens, you've got some money to be able to fall back on. And the reason why we have an emergency fund is without it, often people will get into credit card debt. And so once they get into credit card debt to fund this emergency, that can be a really vicious cycle that's really hard to get out of. Yet 1 in 5 Aussies would struggle to be able to find $1,000 for an emergency. Now, I look at me over the last year or two. I wouldn't say I'm particularly unlucky, but what I found is, my husband got made redundant. It takes several months to look for to be able to find new work. So you need to be able to fund that time. Or, an emergency vet bill. On top of that, even though I have health insurance and income protection insurance and all that sort of stuff, I'm very well insured. Even with all that, you still will have an out of pocket. So it's really important for me, who, I wouldn't say I'm unlucky, the last year or two, without an emergency fund put in place, it would have really derailed my savings plan. So how much should you have for an emergency fund? This is very much dependent on everyone's individual circumstances. So really, I would say you need to seek advice in this area about how much is right for you and about where you should save it. But I'm just going to talk in general terms. You could have 3 to 24 months worth of your expenses. You could have 3 to 12 months of your income, or some people just have a straight dollar amount that they feel comfortable with. It might be $5,000, $20,000, $30,000, whatever it is that they feel comfortable with. I'm just going to go through one of the ways that we could have an emergency fund, and that's the expense method. So in this case, you would figure out what your monthly expenses are. That could be $3,000 a month. That's to pay the mortgage, to put groceries on the table, your basic expenses. And at the minimum, you might want to have 3 months of this put away. So if something happens, you've got 3 months of your expenses up your sleeve. That means you'd need to have about $9,000 in total. But you could already have some money saved, so you might need to save that whole amount. So the next step is to actually calculate what your deficit is. So in this case, you might need $9,000, but you've already got $3,000 saved. So therefore, you only need to save $6,000. So does that make sense? First of all, figure out how much you actually need to put away, and then figure out how much you need to have an emergency fund, then figure out how much you've already got saved, and the difference becomes what you need to save for. But just having that figure is great, but we need to have a plan to make sure we're actually going to be able to save it. So this is the next bit we do, is we actually look at, if you needed to save $6,000 as your emergency fund deficit, you've already got 3, you need to save an additional 6, then you could, based on your spending plan, you might be able to put $200 a month towards that. That's going to take you 30 months to reach your goals. So you write down, I'm going to start this on the 1st of January 2016. I intend to reach my goal on the 1st of July 2018. Now, the reason why we write this down is because there's real power, and there's lots of evidence and research that suggests writing goals down means you're much more likely to be able to succeed with it. So having a plan, writing it down, is going to give you greater chance of actually getting there. I hope you found that this week's tip useful, and as always, if you've got any questions, comments or suggestions, you can hit us up in the Project 52 Facebook group. That way we can all learn about it. I'm totally loving all the engagement and support that you guys are having in there, so keep up the good work and keep the questions coming. And as always, if you would rather, you can also private message me as well at adele@fireflywealth.com.au. I hope you guys have a good rest of your week, and I look forward to catching you in the Project 52 group.